This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now? Shall I do my start again? I shall. Good afternoon and welcome to your sunset safari of today. My name is Lauren. I do have BK on camera. Here, BK, it's good to have you back with us once again. And it's very, very hot today. I feel like I'm going to talk about the heat for quite some time because it is a toasty 34 degrees Celsius and 94 degrees Fahrenheit. It's really, really hot. There you have it. I've complained enough for now. And of course, this is your live safari. You must talk to us. Send in your comments and questions using that famous old hashtag WildEarth. Ouch. Now, for those of you who are possibly not with us this morning on the sunrise safari, we were back out on bushwalk. I had a fantastic bushwalk, lots of small things. And David Hancock, the freelance guide who is with us, had Shadulu. Can you believe it? Shadulu. Of all the leopards, Shadulu, one we hardly get to see, had came back into Djuma and graced us with her presence. And it was fantastic to be able to know that the Duchess of the West is back. So I'm just trying to navigate to the last location that she was seen, but it's not definite that she's actually going to be around. So I'm just going to sort of look around the area, then see if we can find any tracks of her crossing out. She may have crossed out. She also may not have, because it's an incredibly hot day, as I've already told you many times, and she may have actually just found a very cold place. Well, it's not going to be cold, but it could be a lot cooler than it is when you're in the sun, and she may have just gone to rest. Oh dear, this is interesting. Well, we may not be going anywhere fast because we appear to be stuck. I don't quite know what we're stuck on. Do you, BK? Woo! Okay, we managed to get out. Is it a hole? Shall we try again? You can do this, Lauren. You can do this. Okay, second time lucky, everyone. There. Is it still further up ahead? BK's directing me. He was in the sighting this morning, and he's just directing me there. And why I'm driving so slowly, huh? Keep driving. Why have I got no comms? Oh, what a disaster today, everyone. I'm so sorry. Everything is falling apart. But apparently, as I boondabash, I have got to send you across to David, who is out and about on bushwalk.
Indeed, out and about on bushwalk, my first bushwalk out here with the Wild Earth production, and how excited I am to be out here on foot. Unfortunately, got a bit stuck there, Lauren. Sorry to hear that. Luckily, don't really get too stuck out here on foot, or at least not when it's dry. On camera, we got Dave, and if you'll remember, Dave Squared and I made a great team last time, so looking forward to another fantastic afternoon safari on foot here. On security detail, over there, a ways off, we've got Mike and Morris. My name is David Hancock, and I'm going to be just enjoying the bush with you this afternoon. My plan so far is to just take it easy and enjoy being out here on foot. You know, being a trails guide is by far the purest form of safari. It was the way safaris used to be before we invented cars, and still remains the purest form. It is an absolute privilege to be able to walk out here on our own 2 feet and just experience what the bush is going to bring us. It's always a gift, always an unknown, from the small to the big. And speaking of small, we just saw what is known as an elegant grasshopper. hanging onto that stalk of grass. Just in there. Can you see that, David? Sort of. Now, these grasshoppers are very striking and beautiful. What's known as aposematic coloration is what gives them their vivid color, and out here in the bush that is generally an indication of something that's not very palatable, something that's potentially poisonous to birds or other predators. I suppose you could call it their warning sign, or their way of showing predators that they aren't going to be a very good meal. Now, some incredible insects will actually mimic this coloration, even though they are palatable. But as far as I know, this guy is not very tasty. I've never tried it. Can't say that I want to. These grasshoppers in farm areas are actually quite a pest this time of year. They really munch down on crops and on other foodstuffs. But I suppose that's what happens when you live in the bush and you farm in the bush. Cozy, you've asked an interesting question and a valid one. Why do we have a security detail? Well, as you know, this is a Big Five region, which means there are potentially dangerous animals out here on foot. And although it's very seldom and unlikely, we do have to be prepared. Sometimes we surprise an animal that could be dangerous. Sometimes we might stumble into a sleeping elephant or something that could pose a threat. And the vast majority of times we can normally get ourselves out of that situation without any trouble, but we still have to play it safe. We are on their turf out here, so we do have to be careful. I'm seeing a lot of these elegant grasshoppers out here. It's amazing, they blend in, but as soon as they start moving, one starts finding them. Just a little bit of time out here and one really starts seeing the life. But while I continue on in my splendid field of grasshoppers, I'm going to send you back over to Lauren as she continues her search for Shidulu.
No luck for Shidulu. She will definitely be hiding somewhere cool. It's far too hot for a leopard to be exposed in the sun, which is rather sad, but it was worth a check. It was definitely worth coming here. It's also worth me just checking for tracks. She may have popped out, but she could be anywhere. She may not even be on Djuma. She could be in a thicket. Tingana's very good at that. Just marches right into a thicket and falls asleep. So she could have also done a Tingana move. But there's absolutely no way she will be out in the sun in this heat. It needs to get a little bit cooler, I'm afraid. But either way, I'm very, very glad Shidulu was around. The Duchess of the West. So we'll just casually check the area. And then we're going to bumble on down to Treehouse, hopefully to see some elephants. But Shidulu came quite far in today. I believe you guys picked her up on Philemon's cut line, is that right? That's quite far into Djuma for her normal movements. Very, very far in. Lou, can I just check you're still there? It's very quiet and I'm worried about all my technological malfunctions that I've had so far. Okay, Louise is still there. So yes, she came quite far in, considering I just gave her the thumbs up by accident. That's what we do when we're not live. We do this. Sorry. That was habit. That's an old habit. Yes, when we're not live and the director speaks to you, you just let them know that you've heard them by doing this. There's no point in picking the radio up all the time, especially when you're driving. You just let them know that you copy by giving the thumbs up, and I just did that. Oops. But yes. So it's interesting to see Shidulu's movements, because what I've noticed is the movements of the female leopards on Djuma. You only really have Tandi and Klalamba. Tandy's very much down in the southeast, very, very much extending into Little Gowrie, Chitwa and Torchwood. Tlalamba's very much in the north with Buffelshoek. And I feel that there's quite a gap on that western side. I really do. And I think that Shadulu could push in a little bit further if she really wanted to. Now, she has a big territory, a really large territory that extends way west. It's very much under Hukamuri's, well, it's his domain. But I feel like she could be pushing just a little bit further into Djuma because she can. Wow. Oh, look, you can see the tusk marks where the elephants have actually stripped this marula. Can you see those scrapes, BK? Yes. You see that? That's from the elephants who have actually used their tusks to scrape and, well, pick off the bark, if you like, and strip the bark completely. Luckily, it's not been ringed barked, so the tree essentially is still alive, but that's a lot of damage. All done by the elephants trying to get to the cambium layer. Wow. Okay, let us try and navigate through all this mess. I could hear two people's voices there. Two females just spoke to me at the same time. That was really eerie. I don't know if that was Game Drive or not. Okay, I don't know if that was Game Drive or not, but that was two females. Very eerie. Sorry, Louise. So normal? Huh? Oh. What a disastrous start to today's drive. Free mermaid. Yes, I got it. Louise said, what you used to be. Free mermaid, I got it. Very nice name. Yes, so the leopards are officially named, and it's not, the names don't come from us. They're actually sort of given to the leopards by various different stakeholders in the area. It could be game rangers that have been here for a really long time. It could be a guide that has been here for a long time, maybe the first guide to find her, maybe the guide to follow her the most. And normally it's a name that means something. Normally it's a Shangaan name, and it has a nice meaning. I'm not in love with Shadulu. It's a lovely name in Shangaan, but I think the Termite Mound's translation, well, not in love with it. However, it's normally given by a range of stakeholders and agreed upon, so it's not given by us. We have nicknames for animals just to help us navigate through learning about them. It's not really easy to say this female leopard with 2-3 spot pattern. That wouldn't work. So sometimes we give nicknames like Hukadulu. Shadulu's Cup was a nickname for a long time. It's a hilarious nickname. I absolutely love it. Whoever came up with that is just a genius, because normally they wait 1 year before they name cups. Now she's called Kara, which is beautiful. But before she was just the Hukadulu. But it was just a nickname so we could at least identify her rather than saying he, she, or it. Even the Avokas have nicknames because, I mean, how else are you going to identify them? Avoka 1, Avoka 2, Avoka 3, also not very nice. So yes, the names are used by all the guides in the area. She won't be called one thing by us and another thing by another organization or another lodge. Leopard tracks. Okay, I'm just going to have a look at these bushwalks. They could have been from Shadulu, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to check them out. And while I do that, I'm going to send you back across to David and David on Bushwalk.
Well, quite interesting talking about elephants and how they have eaten that marula tree that you found. I remember seeing another one this morning that had been smashed by elephants. And we just stopped here at this tree that has some elephant damage to it. This is not a marula, this is a silver cluster leaf as it's commonly known. Beautiful tree. And what we've stopped here to look at is the damage that has been done by elephants, albeit a long time ago. This is not very fresh. Now, some of you might be wondering what the elephant was looking for, what it was doing. And especially in the winter time when grass isn't as plentiful, elephants will often debark trees for the nutrients. Now, this part that I'm touching here is the internal... Oh, did you hear that? I hear elephants in the distance. They seem to be shouting at something. We will be making our way there, I'm sure. See if we can catch up to them. But what I was saying was, this is the heartwood. This is actually dead. There's nothing nutritious to it. This is the support structure of the tree. This is the bark on the outside. So it's the outer cambium. It's a protective layer. There's not much to this either nutrition-wise. It's actually dead. What the elephants do is they'll stick a tusk in here and rip this, and they get to the inner cambium. And the inner cambium is the part between this outer part and this inner bit, and that is where all the nutrition runs in the tree. So from the leaves all the way down to the roots, back and forth, vice versa, nutrients, after photosynthesis, sugars, that all gets transferred. Moisture, obviously, from the ground gets pulled up to the leaves. That's the kind of the transit highway in the tree, and that's where all the nutrition is found. So what elephants will do is they'll go after that bit, they'll pull that bark off, and you often see them taking that piece of bark that they've pulled off, putting it over a tusk. So if this stick was a tusk, and they take their trunk and they separate the two. They eat the inner cambium and they leave the rest. Now, a tree like this has and will continue to be okay after the elephants try to eat it. If, however, a tree like this has been completely ring-barked, that's where an elephant will take all of the bark all the way around. Then the transport system is done for. There is no more transport system between roots and leaves, and the tree will slowly die. Now, with elephant in these regions that have hit higher population than what is scientifically proven to be healthy, or at least hypothesized to be healthy in this region, we've been doing a lot of effort, and conservationists in this region and in southern Africa have been doing a lot to try and protect these larger trees. And I see up here is an old rusty can. You wouldn't quite see it without looking, but does anyone have any idea what that can would be for? It's quite an interesting thing. It is actually used in conservation. And Janet, you've asked an interesting question. Is there a difference in flavor or nutritional value across different trees? And most certainly. So we'll often find trees that have a lot of thorns on them, will be of higher palatability or higher nutritional value. I suppose that's nature's way of ensuring that they're not over-browsed. Browsing mean eating of leaves. So an animal such as a kudu that might be picking on let's say a buffalo thorn that has very sharp, spiky thorns, has to be more careful, picks fewer leaves because it can't risk or doesn't want to get hurt by the thorns. And I'm sure in that tree itself is a higher palatability and nutrition value that the elephants also go after. Definitely see a vast difference in the species and the variety of species that elephants go for. So I'm sure that elephants have their favorites. Perhaps different elephants have different favorites. Who knows? But Shansa, indeed, well done. I'm impressed. That is not common knowledge, and you've hit the nail on the head, or the nail through the can into the tree, as it is in this case. It is indeed a can with creosote in it. And you might wonder, why on earth would they be putting cans of creosote on trees out here in the wilderness? And the reason for that is it's actually found that creosote, which we use here as a wood treatment, it's quite toxic. It doesn't smell very good. It's got a very strong smell. Elephants definitely don't like it, as most animals won't. And this creosote's not actually on the tree, so it's not damaging the tree. It's just in this can, and it's been nailed here to the tree, into the outer cambium layer. It's not damaging the tree. But when an elephant comes here, it immediately smells that creosote, and it thinks, wow, this is not a very nice smelling tree. Let's perhaps leave this tree alone. And we have seen good success. There's been many other methods used. They've tried wire wrapping trees, which does work sometimes, not always. That wire obviously protecting the bark so that elephants can't really get to destroying it. But obviously an elephant's a strong animal, so sometimes they do break through the wire. Other researchers have tried using beehives, and that has actually worked with some success. Quite very good success, actually, as far as I know. It's not a perfect science because managing beehives is quite tough. It's difficult to get a colony to be placed in the perfect area. So what they'll do is they'll take beehives and they'll put them in these strategic places in large trees. And it's a known fact that elephants hate bees for some odd reason. And they do tend to leave those larger trees alone with the bee colonies in them. So many interesting methods to conservation. As conservation expands and evolves, we're finding more and more ways to work in symbiosis with animals and protect the natural landscape. But speaking of these elephants, we're going to continue over this way and see if we can actually pick up on what we're hearing. And while I do that, I'm going to send you over to Lauren as she continues to track.
I haven't actually decided to follow the tracks, I'm afraid. I had a look. I don't think they're very fresh. And I also think that due to the thickness of this road, I have not been on this road. I think I'm really guilty here. I don't think I've driven this road in a very long time, and it's completely overgrown. I don't think many vehicles take this road, actually. And I'm going to come back towards the west when it gets a little bit cooler. There's really no way, I think, that a leopard will be mobile at this sort of time of day. So I've left the tracks, and I'm going to try and head to Treehouse. Treehouse, where I want to be. It's been a great hit with all the elephants recently. For some reason, they are loving Treehouse Dam, so I want to go down and see if anybody's having a pool party, which in these temperatures, I imagine they would be. Michelle, absolutely not. The animals do not know their names, and they definitely don't respond to them. We don't train them. They're not habituated like that. Yes, they're habituated to vehicles, but that's a completely different concept to being habituated to your name. We don't call them by their name. We don't feed them. We don't offer them any sort of positive rewards. They definitely do not know their name. I would love to think that Tingana knew that we call him Tingana, but he definitely doesn't. And if you think of a dog as well, I mean, my dog's called Poppy, and I would also love to think that Poppy knows her name is Poppy. However, she doesn't actually fully oh, there's a lovely paradise wider. I don't think we're going to be able to get a view of it from here, Beaks. So yes, my beagle Poppy will not know her name is Poppy. Apparently, yeah, I can hear the monotonous lark, but I can't see it. Can you see the birdie behind this call? I'll actually turn off in just a moment so we can hear the call. It's a lovely call, but I can't see it. Is that it? Oh, yeah, here we go. VK, right into the sun. Enjoy. It's calling. The monotonous lark. Now, I think the person that decided to name this lark the monogamous lark was being very polite. Was trying to give this bird a lovely name, which basically means the never-ending call that never stops. And I think by calling it the monogamous lark, they were trying to give it a kind name. But essentially, what it means is the non-stop calling. Louise is saying they should have called it the repetitive lark. Yes, agreed. It's constant. It's a lovely call. It's actually very beautiful, but it's non-stop. And believe it or not, they're actually monogamous, so they do pair up. I'm not entirely sure if they're monogamous just for a breeding season or if they mate for more than one season, actually. I need to check that out. But they are said to be monogamous, which is interesting when they have a call like that. It's the male that's calling, and he can call it during the day or even during the night, during the breeding season. Butterfly, you're seeing what a cute little bird. Very cute. I'm not sure we can see it too well because I just sent BK into the sun. Can you see? Are your eyes okay? You're not blinded. Good. It's very bright. And of course, the bird that we were looking for had to be in that one position that involves going right into the sun. I could hear it, but I couldn't find it. And we did have a paradise wide-eye that flew over that way, but I don't think we're going to be able to get a view of that. Now, I'm sure I was saying something before I saw the bird. Nicole, you're saying maybe we should call it the redundant lark? Was that right? Did I get that right? I hope so. Yes, Nicole, I can think of many names that they could have actually chosen for that lark, but of course they decided with the monogamous name, which is, I guess, a very polite way of saying the non-stop caller. So we're going to slowly make our way to Treehouse. We're not far away, and for now, it seems like the Bushwalk team are on their way looking for Ellies.
And indeed, we are still looking for elephant. We have heard them in this general direction. So just slowly walking and listening. Our ears, in my opinion, are often our greatest sense out here. We often hear things long before we see them, especially in the summertime like this when it's so thick and green. And those elephants we heard from a long way away. Shouts and squeals. They sound to be of delight. We'll see when we catch up to them. I know there is water here nearby, so perhaps we'll find them in the water. As humans, our senses are not nearly as well developed as these animals, but we have to do our best. Speaking of elephants, here's some old elephant dung. Quite old, but the way we know it's elephant dung and not perhaps something similar like a rhino that does look similar in dung. I hear those elephants again. We're getting closer. It's cool. I'm sure we'll catch up to them shortly. But what I'm finding in this dung is a lot of sticks, marula skins, all sorts of things. So elephants, being such large mammals, have to really eat a lot. They eat majority of the day. Some books say between 20 and 22 hours of the day. Can you believe it? That's a lot of eating, with many hundreds of kilograms consumed. And it's really a lot of salad to keep that body moving. So you can imagine a lot of excrement. But in that excrement is nutrition. This is not all digested. As you can see, a lot of roughage here. There's still a lot of stuff that's passed straight through. In the summertime like this, you'll often find whole marulas go straight through their system, come out the other side, not even chewed. So that leaves a lot of nutrition for other animals, insects, birds. The dung beetles will come through here. Your hornbills might land and start picking through for insects. There's all sorts of things that go on in a pile of dung like this. Oh, let's carry on. Noel, you've asked, does elephant dung smell different in the rainy season as opposed to the dry season? To be honest, I haven't really taken specific whiffs of either at either time of year. They always have quite a unique smell. But I suppose if you had to break it down and do some chemical receptor testing, you would probably find it to be a little bit sweeter in the summertime, I would imagine, because your fruits are out that they're eating a lot of, your grasses that are actually quite sweet. Grasses such as these, commonly known as guinea grass, a very important grass out here. Panicum maximum, as it's called. And that is actually quite sweet. Sometimes, just out of habit, I'll pick up a stalk and chew on it, and it has a certain sweetness to it for sure. So I don't think our noses can quite perceive the difference in the odor of elephant dung, but I'm sure on a chemical level it is a lot sweeter in the rainy season now. Well, the good news is no pressure for us, because I believe Lauren has found the giant pachyderms. I'm sending you over to her.
I have found the giant grey pachyderms. We have elephants. Now they look wet or slightly wet, so they've been splashing in something, but I wonder where they have been. I'm not completely sure. They've came from treehouse direction, so we still will head that way to see if elephants are feeding. But for now, we've came across what looks like to be quite a small herd. But sometimes you think the herds are small and the elephants just keep popping out of nowhere, so I could be wrong on that front. Now there's a lot of stress for the elephants right now. Last night I had a herd of elephants that had 2 mammoth bulls, huge bulls in the sort of height of Musth, harassing the herd, if you like. That's the only word that I can really think to use, and it's very stressful for the females, especially the matriarch, to keep all of her herd nice and safe, especially the youngsters. So it becomes a very stressful time, and with elephants, once one starts to react, particularly the elders, especially the matriarch, they all tend to react, and they were all sort of feeding off each other's emotions and getting very, very stressed by these bulls. And it was causing the bulls not to become stressed, but to become more and more sort of focused on following the females. And they were running everywhere across that northern cut line. And I tried to follow them, but unfortunately they went onto a road that is closed. And I think Tristan actually managed to pick back up the same herd. But it's not easy for elephants when there's big Musth bulls around like that. Nice move for, oh, we've got one up here, PK. A youngster. Changing direction, changing it up and not following the older ones. Susie? Singy. Oh dear. I wonder if I'll get any names correct today. Cindy's. I'm going to go with that one. If it's not correct, that's your new name. Believe it or not, the elephant bulls will actually only follow herds when there's females in estrus, and the bulls are in Musth. When it's ready, the males are ready to mate. They're obviously attracted by the scent of estrus in the females, which they pick up in their urine. And the females actually intentionally urinate to attract the males. They obviously know they're in estrus, and they will try to attract a male. The male will follow the scent and then closely guard the herd. Now, once the female's estrus cycle has ended, the male may lose interest and then seek out another herd and check for another female that might be in estrus. I think this older one just collected this young one and said, no, 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 we're not going there. We're going the other way. Oh. So yes, the males do not follow the same herd. That's not the case. They will follow any herd that has a female in estrus and guard that herd until she is no longer receptive and no longer in estrus. I think we'll continue on, Beaky, because I've got a funny feeling there's going to be more elephants down that treehouse. And they do describe Musth as temporary madness. It's been described like that in science for a long time, because it took a long time for researchers to really understand what was going on with the elephants and why they were behaving this way, why they were streaming from their temporal glands, why all of a sudden their behavior changed, why were they dribbling urine from their penis sheath, what was happening. And eventually, of course, as science progressed, they understood the bull was going through what they call musth. But for a long time, it was actually described as a temporary madness. Ian, yes, essentially yes, an elephant bull can be in musth without the lovely dribble that we see. But normally, as an elephant, they can first come into musth at 18 years old, but it's not proper musth, if that makes sense. It's almost like a pseudo pre-musth. That's not the term, but that's how I'm describing it to you, a sort of pre-start of the hormonal game and the hormonal changes. And then normally by 25, they are mature enough to really come into musth, but it can take up to 35 years before a bull actually gets a chance to mate. So normally when they're in their prime years, as a much older adult, then yes, their musth sort of changes will include dribbling from the penis sheath. And why? Basically, it means that they can just spread their urine everywhere they walk, which sounds a bit bizarre, but it's all about the sort of olfactory chemical cues. I was actually talking about that on Bushwalk this morning. By dribbling his urine everywhere, he's leaving little clues of his state, of his heightened state of musth, that he's ready whenever the ladies are, everywhere. So the females also can pick up on that scent. So essentially, when the bulls are younger, they may not dribble, but once they get older, into the sort of adult years, when they're in proper musth, then they will dribble from the penis sheath. And it does look very bizarre, but it's all to do with leaving those chemical signals around for the females to pick up on. Oh my goodness, I don't think we have anyone, do we? Or do we? Haha, we do. I think a herd has just left here and we're going to be able to keep up with the stragglers. I think we've got some young boys splashing around. Frida, it can work both ways. So males, I don't really know how to describe this, but the males actively seek out females in estrus, and how they do this is quite boisterous. It's not very pleasant. But, sorry, I thought those elephants had left the dam. I'm just going to go up here, BK. And we can get a nice view of them splashing in the sun. And they can follow a female by scent, by her urine, as I mentioned. But what we've noticed a lot of bulls doing recently is approaching each female and using his trunk, putting it on her genitals. And he's obviously sniffing for those chemical signals to make sure she is receptive. So it's quite an interesting maneuver in the Book of Love on how to bag a lady. But the females can actively seek the males just as much as the males can actively seek the females. And they do this purely by smell. And that's how they know if one another is receptive. Now, when a male's following a herd, it's tricky because a female in estrus has to mate. She has to. It's hormonal changes, sort of her biological drive to mate. But essentially, the rest of the females in the herd really, really don't like it. So it's quite a stressful time, and both males and females actually can seek out each other. But how the females seek out the males is just urinating everywhere as much as she can in every direction that she can. And this, of course, is allowing him to then pick up her scent, and that's when he'll follow. But with the sheer high numbers of elephants that we've got around right now, I think the bulls are just moving from herd to herd to herd to sniff all the females. Oh, so we managed to find the tail end of a pool party here, and it seems like Bushwalk have also found themselves some elephants.
Indeed we have. We managed to catch up to them. Just over there. They've just gone out of shot, but two young bulls just crossed the road. And not far from us. Crossed about 20 meters in front of us. Very cool. I believe they're on their way to the water by the looks of it, by the speed at which they're walking. Generally, elephants tend to pick up the pace a bit when they're on their way to their beloved H2O. We might have others cross over, but I think it was only those two. It's a little bit thick to get a better view in there, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to try and loop around and see if we can get to the water. Give a bit of a distance. Very cool. I'm glad we caught up to them. It's always rewarding when you follow and when you find. Ooh, you hear that? Grumbles of delight. Beagle, you've asked an interesting question. How many hours of the day do elephants spend sleeping? Now, I haven't spent a full 24 hours with one elephant yet, so from personal experience, I can't tell you. You know, we see them, we leave them again, they move off. But the books will tell you that they don't spend hours on end sleeping like a human does. They actually take elephant naps. You know, they doze, particularly in the heat of the day, maybe under the shade of a tree. You'll see them resting, eyes closed. Occasionally you'll see them leaning against a tree, sometimes against a termite mound, sometimes lying down. And I would imagine total hours of sleep would be anything from perhaps 2 to 5 hours. Would be my guess, I could say, from what I do see when I do observe. But the majority of their time, as we discussed earlier, has to be taken up with eating. Continually fill that body with nutrients. Constantly eating, constantly browsing, constantly grazing, digging, looking for that salad. Oh, there we go. There's another one going to cross the road. Looks curious, like he spotted something. Or is that a female? It is indeed. I see a youngster now. Can you see that youngster, David? Just there under the grass. There she comes out into the open. Beautiful. Faithfully following Mom. How special to be able to spend time with him on foot. Butterfly, you've asked a question, how do elephant bulls in Musth react to humans? Could they potentially attack a human when they are in Musth? And indeed, elephant bulls in Musth are often more aggressive than they would be when they're not in Musth. I've encountered many very aggressive elephant bulls when they're in Musth. But on the other hand, I've encountered some very relaxed elephant bulls when they are in Musth, full-blown Musth, and yet they don't seem to display much of a difference in their personality or in their aggression levels. Remember Musth? What is Musth? It's the increase in testosterone in that period of an elephant's year where that increase in testosterone and drive can often lead to more aggression, and of course an unsuspecting human might get in their way and could be the brunt of an attack if they annoy or scare or cause the elephant to feel threatened. Certainly there could be an attack due to a Musth bull, but it could also be an attack due to a non-Musth bull. Perhaps a mother who feels that her calf is being threatened. In an instance such as this, that's a breeding herd, what we refer to as a breeding herd. It's not a single bull. It's not a group of bulls. It's the core nucleus of an elephant herd. And on foot, one often wants to give them a bit more berth, a bit more distance than you would perhaps a single solitary bull, because you do not want that mother to feel that you are inside that comfort zone, inside her space. Talking about distances that they cover earlier and how fast they move. I wonder when last his elephant drank and how far they've walked in between watering holes. Luckily there's a lot of water in the bush this time of year, so they don't have to go too far. They're about to disappear now into the bush. I'm going to loop around and see if we can maybe get a different angle, but while I do that, I'm going to send you back to Lauren at the next watering hole.
I am on my way to the next watering hole. I've decided, let's just do all the watering holes. I've got the reserve to myself. There is not one other vehicle at the moment traversing on Djuma. So why don't we just check all the water holes and see what's happening? It's actually quite nice to know that you can bumble anywhere. It means you have a lack of information of where animals are, or where animals were, or where they might be heading to. But other than that, we've got it all to ourselves. So the next watering hole will be Twin Dams. I think I'll take a little stop into Chitwa. It's always good to just check what's going on in the south, and then I'll head up north. And then hopefully by that time it will have cooled down enough that I'll go west again and try to see if Shadulu is still around. I would love her to still be around, I really would. Noelle, you're asking about Sebwig. I would love to check on Sebwig, I really would. Apparently, Tristan attempted it the other day, and he was very, very brave to do so, and it didn't go too well. So I had a little look the other day in the sort of area that we would need to go. It's actually very close to Twin Dams. So what I will do is I'll pop my nose in, but I'm not sure. I'll pop my nose in, and I'll let you see the conditions. We can't risk getting stuck, I'm afraid. We could be stuck for days. And Tristan did say it's really not a good idea. He tried it and it wasn't one of his finest ideas. And therefore, it's maybe not recommended. But then again, on the other hand, the temperatures are soaring. So one of these days it's going to completely dry up. So that's a good idea, Noelle. I'll pop my nose in, see the situation, and we'll take it from there. How does that sound? I would love to look for Sebwig. There's no guarantee that he'll still be around, but I really would love to look for him. Sorry, bear with me. I thought I saw tracks, but I actually think I'm just losing my mind. No, I do see tracks. Hold on. I think they're old though. Old leopard tracks. They could actually be Tandy's, although they're on top of vehicle tracks. This is exactly where Tandy popped out the other day when she was on her territorial patrol. But they're very, very old. Which means they're going to lead me nowhere. Noelle, you're saying, don't worry, don't get stuck. No, you're right. I want to do it. I want to just pop my nose in. I shall try for both you and I. But I definitely won't go in if it doesn't look good. But I shall, Noelle. I shall do that for you. Imagine if we could see Sebek again. There would be many happy faces all across the world if that was possible. We're almost at Lawrence Pan now. So we'll stop there briefly, see what action is going on. It's always active, especially at this time of day, and we'll see what's going on. And then I'll pop my nose into Sebwig's residence. Many of you are saying you miss Sebwig. I know, me too. I followed his journey from day one. And I remember when I popped a message on our crew group saying, everyone, I've just found a spotted eagle owl chick. Everyone was overjoyed. And of course, little did we realize that we were going to be able to see him on every drive and start to learn about this little chick. And all of a sudden, it got taken away from us by the rains. He may not still be there, I have no idea. It's going to be a case of really taking our time and exploring the area to see if we can see any signs of him or Mama or Papa. Oh, Marsha, good question. I'm just going to pull up here at the pan. I can hear it already. And figure out how to answer your tough question, Marsha. Do I prefer to walk or be on drive? It's two very different experiences. When you're on the vehicle, you have more access to sort of different areas around. You also have more access to the bigger animals. Longer sightings with elephants, leopards, lions, keep up with dogs. But walking is a completely different perspective. You're at ground level with all the animals, and you can really focus on the small things. I try to focus on the small things on the vehicle, but it's really not always possible. But when you're on bushwalk, you really can look at all the sort of plethora of insects that are around. So it's two very different experiences. I'm not sure I'm actually able to answer that. I'm so used to driving around. I've been doing it every day for a long time now. But there's something magical about being on foot, especially when you're viewing elephants, for example. Oh, Marsha, I'm not sure I'm able to choose. I love them both, but for completely different reasons. Now the pan is very active. Let's just listen for a second or two. Siggy, you're saying we should call this Weaverville. That's a great one. Weaverville. It essentially is Weaverville. There's lots of other life around, but the weavers definitely attract all of the attention. You can see how hard the males are working here. Non-stop. Is this the start of one you've got here, BK? It looks like it. It looks like the very start of a fresh nest where this male has just started to wrap the grass around, soon to be threaded and woven with other pieces of grass to create the nest. So I think BK and I will just enjoy this Weaverville for a little bit longer, and it seems like the Bushwalk team have managed to catch up with their Ellies.
We have caught up to them. We lost them there for a little while and then looped around. The wind wasn't in our favor, so we had to kind of move around, do quite a large arc and get on the other side so that they didn't pick up our scent. You can imagine an elephant's sense of smell is phenomenal, so we always have to keep that in mind when following up on them or walking with them on foot. As soon as they pick up our scent, then they get curious, they get agitated, and when walking and viewing animals on foot, it's always our intention to try and view them without them actually knowing we're there. So keeping out of their smell range is imperative if possible. Move around here. Ian, you've asked how far is the safest distance when being on a bushwalk, potentially viewing an elephant. And there's not a standard exact question that I can answer, that I can give you. Every situation differs. Depends on how thick the bush is, how open the bush is. In this situation, we've got a nice natural barrier between us, so one always wants to, where possible, give a bit of a barrier so that if those animals pick up on our movement or on our scent, there's at least a bit of a barrier so that they hopefully decide against crashing through our way because of the barrier and maybe going another way. But as far as meters go, no exact answer, and everyone's got a different feeling. Every encounter is different. You always kind of take every encounter as it comes. There's a very real thing called personal space with elephants especially. They feel a zone and they've got space around them. And if you come into that personal space, then they can often feel threatened. Sometimes an elephant actually comes into our personal space, which is in a different situation altogether. That animal has then decided that it is comfortable to move closer into a situation where our personal spaces are overlapping. And if that's what the animal feels like doing, then that's okay. It's often the situations you get where you get very close, sometimes a couple meters away in the case of elephants. But you don't want to actually go into their personal space, because if you're intruding on their personal space, they perceive it as a threat, and that's not what you want. Just keeping an eye on this animal. See, there's a termite mound up ahead. Let's go and climb that and see if we can get a better visual. Getting very thick in here. David's trying to maneuver his way there through the tambutis. Perfect. Very cool. Lovely. I think, David, if you can come up here, there's still a shot over here in the distance. Very cool. So in response to that question earlier as well, personal space with elephants. The bush often dictates your encounter, so this is a perfect situation, even though there's a breeding herd nearby that we would often be a bit more cautious of. Here we've got a very good natural barrier right ahead of us. We've got a deep drainage line, and we're standing on top of a shidulu, if you remember what that means, a termite mound. So both of these are good barriers. Even if Mama Elephant completely loses her cool and woke up on a really angry side of the bed this morning and decided to come and give us a go or inquire or be interested in us, we are relatively protected here. So if it wanted to, an elephant could always climb up here, but it would be less likely to do so than in an open area. You see a big grey bum there moving through the bush. It's amazing how quiet they move. Well, I'm going to sit up here a little bit longer. One doesn't ever want to be too rushed when on foot out here, especially when you're surrounded by a breeding herd of elephants. So I'm going to sit here a bit longer, see what these animals do, see which way they move. Might get another shot of them, let's see. But while I do that, I'm going to send you back to Lauren as she makes her way to Chitwa.
I am making my way to Chitwa and eating a lot of dust. at the same time. I'm just going to wait till that other vehicle gets a little bit up ahead so that I don't get smacked in the face by dust. Lauren from Wild Earth crossing into Chitwa. Just got to do my bit. Now apparently there was dogs all over Copy, thank you. Apparently there was lots of dogs around here this morning, and I've been recommended to just have a little poke around. I'm guessing all the other guides will know if they're still here or not. Of course, dogs are very mobile animals, but they will rest in the heat of midday, especially on a day like today. They will rest. They will go completely flat, and then they will pick back up again once it starts to get marginally cooler. So I didn't know that. I've only just had that update that the dogs were all around. So it was quite a busy morning. And of course, Shadulu arrived too. That's how nature works. Everything happens at once. And I mean everything. So we'll check out the dam. We'll say hi to everyone at the dam. Animal-wise, I mean. I like to say hello to my animals. And then we might just scratch around and see if anyone knows where the dogs are. I've yet to see elephants at Chitwa since summer. Is that elephants? Retract my words, we're live. Louise, edit that out, edit it out. This is the first time I've seen elephants this summer. I have seen elephants bathing at Chitwa before, I have, but not in summer. Oh, they're on the dam wall. This is incredible. Okay. This is very, very exciting. I think it might be two separate herds, but I'm just guessing. You can't actually know that until you sort of see the numbers and their interactions, but I think we've got one herd. It's a huge herd. Okay, where do I position? The elephants are all coming towards us. I don't know if BK can give you a little bit of a visual. And you don't want to be in their way. There you go. It's going to be a bumpy view of where the elephants are. They're all swimming down here. So, where shall I position? How wonderful. I think I'm going to go up and just pull to the side so I'm not in the elephant's way. They don't like it when you're in their way. If they have a path set out in their mind, they don't like it when all of a sudden something gets in their way. And they will tell you to move. I got told to move the other day by a bull who wanted to scratch his bottom on the marula tree. BK, is this okay for now until we see where the elephants are going to go? So we'll try and give you a view of the elephants in the water. I know it's not ideal, but there's a herd on the dam wall that I just want to figure out where they're going to go first. I don't want to upset them. PK, look. They're all coming towards us. Amazing. See? This is why I didn't want to block their path. This is so lovely. Elephants on Chitwa Wall. I might have to take a photo of this, everyone. I don't want to forget this moment. There we go. I had a message from someone the other day on one of my platforms saying, you should get a silent shutter. And I agree, I should take sneaky photos. I'm only teasing. Oh, look at that youngster. I think they're going to go right past the car. Hello, happy herd. Happy Lauren, happy herd. See, this is the path they wanted to take. This is why I couldn't block it. They're completely fine, they're not stressed, but if I had blocked it by being on the dam wall, I think they're going to go straight into the water. They would have been upset with me. They would have shown me they were upset if I had blocked their path. Oh, Oh, look at this big mama at the end. She's huge. Look at those big swollen mammary glands. Walking very slowly. Unmistakably a girl. She looks old as well. I know this is going to sound slightly bizarre, because elephants do have a very wrinkly skin. But actually, when they get older, let's take a look at this cow. Their skin almost looks a little bit thinner and a little bit more wrinkly, if that can make any sort of sense. She's got a very saggy belly. Let's look at her belly, BK. You see that? That's another indication that she's most likely very old. She could be the matriarch. She's huge, and she's definitely old. You can really tell by the skin. I think this is the bull coming up behind. You see him, BK? Oof. The bull is massive. Look at him next to the cow. You're going to see them stand by side by side. Now, I just told you how big she was, and look at him. Oh, he's doing that maneuver I was talking about earlier. You see that size comparison? That just shows you how big he really is. I think he's going to check out all the females using that lovely... Yes, he is. Look, look. He's going to check this female out. Yep. I don't think the male elephants have been taught any sort of manners when it comes to the ladies. Putting your trunk on their genitals is not very pleasant. He's going to go for the next female. Oh, he's ignoring this one. Amanda, yes. Elephant bulls need to be in Musth to mate. And they're said to actually have 60, up to 60 times more testosterone pumping through their body. That is a lot of testosterone. Probably why they're so emotional, so aggressive, so, well, mad, if you like, because we describe it as temporary madness. And we were talking about the dribbly penis sheath. I know it sounds very bizarre, but it's actually really interesting, and the history behind it is interesting, because originally, a very long time ago, it was actually thought to be a venereal disease. And what that means is transmitted sexually. So they originally thought that the leaky penis sheath, was something very abnormal. And then a bull elephant, a much older bull, was actually discovered to have a green penis. And again, it sounds very bizarre, and if you do Google it, it is bizarre. The penis sheath itself actually turns greenish white, and it can sometimes be called green penis syndrome. And when it was first discovered, again, it not only looks bizarre, but it has a really sharp odor, very pungent. And scientists believed that this was some sort of disease that was affecting these mammals and being passed sexually. And there was quite an outcry, there was quite a worry, because they thought, well, it's going to be a really, really big problem if all the elephants start mating and pass on this disease. The dribbling urine was then thought to be a malfunction of the sphincter in the genitalia area. It was only later realized that it was all part of the sort of Musth syndrome. Not syndrome, symptoms, I think is a better word. And Cynthia Moss, back in, I think it's 1976, a long time ago, was actually the first scientist to really fear an epidemic of this green penis syndrome, not fully understanding what it was really about, and then get into the bottom of it and understanding that it can occur in males, much older males, when they're in Musth. And although a green penis would be extremely unattractive on a human, let's face it, it is actually proven to be very enticing for female elephants. The older bulls with the greenish, whitish penis actually get more females. The females seem to be really drawn to it, so it must have some sort of correlation with testosterone and strong genes and a stronger genetics. The females are actually very attracted to males with the green penis syndrome. So it's obviously an essential reproductive signal of some sort that is apparently irresistible to the ladies. Oh, hello, we got a surprise visitors. Oh goodness, we've got lots of visitors. We have some huge elephants coming up behind us. We're just going to play. Can we just give one look here, Lou? Is that okay? We've got a huge bull. Look at that. It's massive. He's got a torn ear. He's huge. Look at the tusks. Okay, we're definitely not in the ideal position for these elephants. If he shows a slight look at the dribble, BK's dribbling. You see that? He's an old boy in the height of Musth, streaming from the temporal glands. It's okay, boy. We're not in your way. Just hold still, Beaks. Okay, he's not sure what to do with us, I think. So we may reposition if we think he's trying to get past us. We're not actually blocking his path, but if he's reacting in any sort of way, we will move. Oh. Okay. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Okay, boy. He's obviously taking a tantrum of sorts. And off he goes. Sorry, Lou, I just wanted to show everyone that bully was huge. Now, all of the elephants are walking to the other side, so we actually might reposition. You can see here. So while I do figure out how I'm going to catch up with all of them, we are going to send you back across to David on Bushwalk.
We were just slowly moving our way through the bush and got surprised by another group of elephant, a different group that we didn't know about. And they were just around us here. They actually started coming in our direction, and we had to quickly make a plan to get out of their way because it did appear to be a mother with some youngsters. David, I can see a bit here through the trees. I wonder if could you get over here onto this log without bailing? You can just see some ears flapping over there under that marula tree. So, as we were walking, we got surprised by this mother, and she was probably about 15-20 yards from us, intently moving in our direction, which would then be a very good example of being a bit too close for comfort to a female with a youngster. But when on trail, you are constantly taking cognizance or note of what you've passed, and we remembered that there was a termite mound not too far back, so we quickly doubled back on ourselves, came and climbed this termite mound where we are now. And they were inquisitive. They definitely smelt us. They came a bit closer, but they appear to not be too fazed by us now. Termine, I hope I'm saying that right. You've asked how old do elephants get in the wild. Now, they definitely get a lot older than me, so I haven't actually lived long enough to see an elephant's entire lifespan, but from what I've read, anywhere between 50 and up to 70 years they can reach. David, I only see that now, that long-tailed shrike. David said, look at the bird, and I was trying to see where it was, and it was right in front of me. So yeah, I suppose elephant age depends on their food and what they're eating. So you may know that elephants eventually lose condition due to losing their final set of teeth. Now those teeth are obviously very important for chewing and grinding up all the roughage and material that they eat, the bark and the roots, the leaves. As they get towards the end of their lives and they lose that final set of teeth and they can't chew very well anymore. And what happens is they cannot actually break that food down enough to be able to be of nutritional value to them. As we know, their digestive systems aren't very, efficient. So when they can't chew very well, it's even less efficient, and they slowly but surely start losing condition and eventually will die. Perhaps the elephants that live up to 70-odd years spend their last days or months or years in an area with a lot of softer vegetation. So they've got a little bit of an advantage with even with their lack of teeth. Space cow, you've asked, is that a magpie shrike that we were looking at earlier? It's still there. And it is indeed also known as a long-tailed shrike. It's quite silhouetted there with the sun behind it. Don't know how well you can see it on camera. Not too bad, that's good. These elephants are just moseying around, not doing too much. Every now and then they put a trunk up as the wind blows. The wind is now completely wrong for approaching elephants. These elephants definitely know we're here. The wind's on the back of our necks, blowing straight towards them. There's a good breeze going. So they are getting the full smell of David Squared on a sweaty walking trail. Ken, you've asked, how often are elephant bulls in Musth? Now that varies according to elephant age. Different books have slightly different ages and lengths of time. I suppose it may vary from area to area, perhaps. But after an elephant reaches its sexual maturity, an elephant bull, anywhere from, say, around 20 odd years, from about 15, I suppose they start feeling the effects of their hormones starting to rage. Slowly leave the herd, form their bachelor groups. And anything from about 20 to 25 on, to my knowledge, they can start going into their first musth cycles. And those musth cycles will last a long time. I read an account of elephant being in musth for up to a year, but generally, to my knowledge, it's around 7 months. Oh, there's another elephant. There's an elephant walk today, elephant party. And then obviously as their age increases and they get older, those musth cycles decrease in their frequency. We have got the perfect spot up here. We've just been surrounded by elephants. There was that group we picked up in the distance. Got surprised by this breeding herd over here. We see this other elephant coming out into the open area. Just watch him for a bit as he crosses through the open area. Trunk up, smelling, perhaps following that breeding herd. You can imagine how good their sense of smell is. What a privilege to be up here. I feel like we on top of the world. It's a beautiful termite mound. Just enjoying these elephants really is special. We're going to sit up here for a while longer and kind of get a feel for where all these elephants are. We are pretty much surrounded. And while we sit up here, I'm going to send you back to Lauren, who is still enjoying time on Chitwa.
I am thoroughly enjoying my time at Chitwa. Elephants in the water, elephants fighting, elephants grazing, hippos in the background. Oh, it really couldn't be better. I just want to get closer. Oh, there's some irritation going on over there. Let's just watch for a little while. Oh, you going round? I think we just blocked someone's view by accident. Okay, I think it's all camped down there. Let's get a little bit closer to this swimming alley. It is an elephant drive today. I just can't leave. There's just elephants, 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 elephants. Dark elephants. I love it when they're so dark because they're wet. Now, the reason it can be tricky to actually sex an elephant, once you properly look at them, you can, but it's tricky. And that is because the most important sort of, well, identification feature when trying to identify males is testicles. And of course, elephants' testicles are inside. They are not external and they're not visible. And some textbooks I read actually call this testconda. But when I try to research it, I don't actually get anything when I type in this word. So I'm not sure if that word is the correct one. Oh, we've got a boy here. Hello, yes. You know you're a boy. We've got that. Oh, goodness, they're all full of beans today. And it was actually Aristotle that discovered that elephants' testicles were sort of positioned in the abdominal cavity internally rather than externally. And that's why it can be tricky, because female genitals can sag and they can resemble males. What is up, boy? Why are you walking backwards into the water? And of course, mothers, females that are old enough, will have big mammary glands positioned right in front of their forelegs. They can actually also differ in the shapes of their head, but you've got to have a really good view of the elephant before you can determine that. But between male and females, sorry, let's just watch this. I'll continue in a moment. Two bulls for sure. It's wrestling time. I think we've got a third one coming to join. Sometimes it's nice just to be quiet and watch them. Makes you feel like you're right there in the water with them, which would not be a good idea, but I would like to be in the water. Two seem to be really engaging in play, and the other one, well, not so much. They all try to get on one another's backs. It's almost like a conga line of elephants. Did you hear that? Someone's trumpeting. Completely relaxed now. I hope all of you are as well. That just was wonderful. Who needs to meditate when you can just stop and watch elephants swimming? I think it's just as effective. I think they just had a little discussion there that says, come on, one more wrestle. The other one's pushing that on with its tusk and trunk. Get back in the water. Get back in the water. Sorry, I was very engrossed in that sighting. Sticks and stones. You're asking, when do elephants first develop tusks? Now, tusks, as many of you know, are modified incisors from the upper jaw of an elephant. And they will actually have a set of milk tusks before they grow the adult tusks. Just like humans, we have baby teeth, milk teeth, before we get our adult set of teeth. and they replace the milk tusks, come in at around anywhere between 6 months to a year old. You can see the very, very small, so very small milk tusks. And then once, of course, the milk tusks, they lose them, then they start to develop their adult tusks. Now, the adult tusks grow continuously throughout their whole life. They don't stop growing, but if they are damaged, they will not regrow. The milk tusks normally fall out at around about a year old, I think. And then the permanent tusks will start to grow, and you will only see them protruding. BK's giving you a perfect view. They actually start closer to under the eye, but we just can't see that. We can only see them protruding once they grow a little bit longer. So once the permanent tusks come in, we start to see them protrude anywhere from around 2 years old. But I think they start growing before that. It's just we can't see them because they're much further back in the head. You do get tuskless individuals though. Just keeping my eye on everyone here. We've got some naughty boys and we've got a huge male coming in. So I just want to keep my eye on this situation here. And it seems like Bushwalk have actually found one of the animals that everyone has been asking for recently.
Indeed, it has been an elephantastic afternoon. We eventually managed to get our way out of the middle of the herd of elephants, and indeed came across this very cool spider. How exquisite in the sunlight. Known as the garden orb variety, it's typically seen in the summertime. Intricately spinning its web between bushes, blades of grass, and patiently waiting for an unsuspecting victim to land up in the sticky web. As you can see in the middle of her web, down there to the right, all of her recent conquests and meals strung up. There's a fly, some other smaller insects that have met an unlucky demise. Incredible spiders. One of my favorite things about them is the strength of their silk. Likened to the strength or stronger than steel on a similar scale. If one was to pull a strand of steel to a similar diameter, a spider's web would actually be stronger from what I've read and heard. You can actually feel it. Sometimes you'll walk into a spider's web, get a full face of web, and it actually catches you. It's very strong. Indeed, he is huge indeed. But this isn't actually a he, it's a she. And she will be here for the summer season before laying her eggs to continue her circle of life. The males are significantly smaller. With spiders, you often find males on the web of the females. I don't see any now. So cool, so exquisite. None of your business, you've asked, are they venomous to humans? I do believe they've got some venom in them, but not dangerous to humans. Nothing to worry about. If you were to get bitten, it wouldn't put you on your deathbed. Perhaps a bit of swelling, itchiness, but I've never actually been bitten by one. I'm sure some of the larger species could get their mandibles to break your skin, but generally with spiders, mandibles aren't quite big enough to really get a good grip on their skin. I'm sure if she wanted to, she could. Very, very cool. Some amazing things that you find here in these drainage lines. Just keeping a listen out. We are still in elephant country. They are still close by. Didn't quite hear that comment from M1. Sorry, that broke up there for a second. Beautiful colors indeed. Absolutely phenomenal out here in the sunlight. It really just brings it to life, this coloration. A lovely time of day as the sun starts getting low on the horizon. One of my favorite things to do is close my eyes and just feel the sun. American women, you've asked, how can one sex a spider? That would depend very much on the species of spider. There are thousands of different species of spiders. They're still discovering new spiders on an ongoing basis. And obviously, different species will have a vast difference between the males and the females. Generally, in my experience from the spiders we have out here, the females are significantly larger. That's kind of the first big clue you look for. And then species specific, one would just have to research and see the difference in their bodies and the way they appear. Trying to get a closer look at those fangs. And imagine being a fly and getting caught in a spider's web. How terrifying would that be? You spend time in the bush, you actually realize how the little things are actually the scary things if you were to make them life-size. I used to work in Central Africa, Gabon, Congo, that region, and one quickly realizes that the insect kingdom, the insect world is far scarier than the big guys and the big stuff. Herd of elephants is imposing, but when you see a colony of driving ants moving through and munching everything, or a spider hunting a wasp, paralyzing a spider and laying eggs inside of it, it's just brutal. You realize how the insect world is amazing and amazingly terrifying. I just heard an elephant shouting at the back there. I don't know if you guys heard that on the camera. Be sweet, you've asked, can spiders be stuck in their own webs? I've never seen that happen. I doubt it. I'm sure they're better at it than that. If they were to get stuck in their own webs, they wouldn't be very good at it, doing what they do. Maybe a specific species getting stuck in another spider's web, maybe a jumping spider ending up in a web like this. Maybe that could happen. I've never seen it. Very, very cool. Well, elephants are still here in the near vicinity, so we're moving slowly. Don't want to have another surprise. We're just going to continue on down this drainage line, see what else we can see. Perhaps bump into the elephant again, perhaps something else cool. But while we slowly move here through this drainage line, I'm going to send you back to Lauren at Chitwa Dam. Enjoy.
I don't know if you will bump bump into any more Ellies, David, because they all appear to be here. I cannot believe the number of Ellies. We're still with them. And I was actually saying before the differences between males and females. So obviously the mammary glands is one thing to look at. Size, of course, if they're next to each other. Genitals is tricky. But another way to tell is also tricky, but it's possible. If you look at this male's forehead, if we can get a bit of a closer look at this male's forehead, BK, on the right, okay, or on the left. I think the right one's a little bit easier. You can see that the forehead, and I use that loosely, it's not the same as we have a forehead, from the crown of the head all the way to the trunk is actually quite smooth. It's semicircular. It just sort of goes down without any sharp angles. That's a key feature of males. Females actually have quite a square forehead, if you like, and it will protrude out before it goes down. There's a completely different angle to the forehead with both males and females. Oh, you two. Friends. A little bit of tactile communication going on there between two males. Free Mermaid, you're asking about elephants' emotional state and if I think they would get bored grazing all day. Now, come on, boys. You were just having a lovely moment there. Honestly, Free Mermaid, I really don't think they get bored. I think there's so much more to elephants' daily lives than just grazing. Now, there's a lot of communication happening that humans don't fathom. They can use non-verbal communication, a huge range of it, and they can also communicate verbally, but it's out with our hearing range, which means that we really, really don't know when they're communicating. So they use rumbles, but they also use really low rumbles that humans just cannot hear. And I think they talk amongst one another. Talking's probably not the correct term. Communicating, excuse our aerial. It always ends up bombing the shots. So yes, I think they're always communicating with one another amongst the herd, and we are just not aware of it because we can't hear it. So I have mentioned this before, but a typical human male's voice, it fluctuates around 110 hertz. Now a female's voice, human, is normally around 220 hertz because it's slightly higher. Now this is a general figure. Of course, some males have higher voices and some females have deeper voices, but this is general. And a child's voice is around 300 hertz. In elephants, a male rumble fluctuates on average around a minimum of 12 hertz. Oh, now the hippos want some attention. BK saying, should we film the hippos? I think we should. They're obviously asking for some attention, so we probably should say hi to the hippos because that's what they're doing. So we'll turn to the other side. We see you. You're just as special as the elephants. So yes, what was I saying? Elephants can communicate sort of on average at a minimum of 12 hertz. Male's voice, 110 hertz. Male elephant, 12 hertz. That's a big difference. It's completely out with our hearing range. So I think they're communicating all the time, Free Mermaid. I think within a herd there's lots of dynamics. They've got to be mothers. They've got to learn how to become mothers. They've got to guide one another to safety. They've always got to be on alert from predators, from other herd, from boisterous bulls. And culture is a huge part of elephant life. The older elephants, especially the matriarch, must pass down knowledge to the others within a herd. That's her role. That's the elder's role. So I think all day there's lots of social interactions, communications, and of course, teaching. if you like. I think that's quite a good word. So I obviously don't know because I'm not an elephant. Sometimes I feel like an elephant once I've had too much to eat, but I'm not. But I don't imagine they would get bored. I think boredom is actually limited to humans. I really do. I know some people say, oh, my dog's bored, my cat's bored, but I think it's very much anthropomorphizing. And although I do believe in anthropomorphism, I think that's the right word, we've also got to balance it out with anthropodenial. We've got to sort of find the happy medium. And I think boredom is very much a human term. You're welcome to disagree with me though. But I think if I was to analyze the word boredom, I think it's very much a human term. But please feel free to share your thoughts. Hippos are also said to be testconda, where their testicles are inside, very similar to elephants. They're the same in that way. And when I talk about culture, I just mentioned that culture to biologists is actually non-heritable information that's transferred across generations. That's how it's defined. Oh, hello, oxpecker. You want some attention too. So if you think of humans, human genes, genetics don't force you to, let's say, get tattoos or go to the movies, but many people adopt these customs through learning. It's not genetics. So culture was actually once thought to be very much a thing of humans, Homo sapiens, but culture is very much now widespread across the animal kingdom, especially in mammals and birds, mostly in long-lived social species, and elephants, in my eyes, are the prime example of that. Now, culture could be used to describe tool use or even tool manufacture in crows, for example. Migration routes of elephants. They learn this, it's passed down through the generation. Dialects of orcas, or even locations of communal mating site, leks and antelopes. It all comes down to culture, which all comes down to learning. Survival of culture is done through learning. So I don't think elephants get bored. That was a long-winded answer, but there you have it, free mermaid. So I think we're going to leave Chitwa now, or at least bumble around, possibly get some more information on the dogs. And as we say goodbye to our hippos and our elephants, we're going to send you guys back across to Bushwalk.
You never know, lurking dog. And sometimes, can you hear me there?
Yep, all good.
Cool. As I was saying, we always move through these areas slowly. Besides the plethora of elephants that we've been seeing this afternoon, especially those with the youngsters that we've got to be watch out for. There could be an old dugger boy, which is an old buffalo, lying up in here in the cool. Any number of things that we walk slowly to avoid, hopefully hearing or smelling or seeing them before we ride on top of them. We've just come up to an interesting tree, one of my favorite trees. This is called a tamboti tree, often found in drainage lines like this. They like growing in these lower lying areas. This is a young tamboti tree, so the bark doesn't look like that of an older tree. It's a lot smoother. The older trees have a lot coarser of a bark. But there's one surefire way to make sure that this is a tamboti tree. And to do that, one wants to pick a leaf and see if you see white latex, which you can see there on the stem. That white latex is indicative of a tamboti tree. Also indicative of poison, toxicity. Nothing you want to ingest. So if you put that drop in your eye, you might win yourself a trip to the hospital. Also important to know when camping out here, if you ever find yourself stuck in the bush or camping in the bush, you don't want to be gathering firewood from this tree or from below this tree. One of the first things we learned as children growing up here is if you do end up making your fire from this wood, the toxicity from the wood can actually make you quite sick if you are cooking on that fire or inhaling the smoke of that fire. Also used in a medicinal value. I've never tried this, but I've read that it could be used for toothache. You put a drop of that latex on the affected tooth, it actually numbs the nerve of that tooth. Never tried it, but it makes sense. Spas, you've asked what is my favorite plant. Without a doubt, I'd have to say a large leadwood tree. It's a beautiful tree, slow growing, but when you find a big one, then you know it's old. I'll try and find one before this walk's over and show you one. Interestingly enough, these tamboti trees, although toxic to us, we do find animals eating them. We'll often find porcupines eating at the bark around their base. Black rhino love eating them. Giraffe love eating the leaves. I've even seen impala browsing on these, surprisingly, in the dry season. So it doesn't appear to affect all species. Well, I'm going to continue on along this drainage line nice and slow. Kathleen, you may be noticing this long grass that we're standing in, and you've asked, how many ticks do we find on ourselves after a bushwalk? I wasn't thinking about it, but now that you say it, I immediately start feeling crawling, although subconscious. And it really depends on the time of year. I don't see any now, thank goodness. But very frequently you'll find yourself walking through, for instance, a pepper tick nest, and you can just feel your skin crawling. And when that happens, you know you're going to be in for an itchy week ahead. But it's just par for the course walking out here in the bush. Katie, you've asked, do I ever worry about snakes? Very valid question when walking through the bush like this. And to be honest, definitely don't worry about them. I actually love snakes. And always on the lookout for them. Very good friend of mine, Justin van Badar, he actually works quite close next door in Simbambili. He's an avid snake specialist. He's taught me a lot about snakes, and when you get to know them and get to learn about them, they really are fascinating. So we're always on the lookout for them out here, but unfortunately very difficult to find them because they can obviously sense us coming as we clumsily stumble our way through the bush, and they get a fright and they move off. But when we do find them, we definitely take time to view them and enjoy them. You've asked, do the camps keep anti-venom on standby for snakes? It depends. Camps don't generally. It's quite a specialist thing. You have to have a medicinal background to be able to administer it. Generally, the protocol would be to just get the patient to a hospital as soon as possible should they be bitten by one of the deadly snakes that we have out here. Some species also don't actually have an anti-venom that can combat their venom. Some species will have to just be treated symptomatically. For example, a neurotoxic venom which attacks your heart and lungs and breathing your neurosystem will not always have an anti-venom administered by the doctor. Instead, if you're in hospital, they will just keep you alive symptomatically. So it depends on the snake. Some people are allergic to anti-venom. Anti-venom is useful, but not always used. So not something that camps generally keep on stock or at hand. Well, I'm going to continue on, see what else we can find. perhaps that leadwood that I've been talking about. While I do that, I nearly fall in a hole. Watch that hole, David. I'm going to send you back to Lauren with the tallest animal that we have out here. Enjoy.
We actually have two giraffes, one male and one female. Quite unusual to see a male and female like this together. And when they, let's see if we can catch up with them. They can be quite skittish giraffes, but when you see them together, you can actually see the size difference, and you can notice quite visible difference between male and female. All the elephants are here. Hello everybody, we saw you at the dam. Yes, we did. We're just going to say hello to the giraffes. Oh, there's 3. Did you know there was 3? Interesting, we've got 2 males and 1 female. 1 dominant male. The dark one will be the dominant one. Unfortunately, this is on Torchwood, so we can't really go in here, but we'll try and give you a view. The study shows that the dark coloration is related to dominance within the giraffe social circle. I say social circle because they don't really have a structure as such. They're very aloof in sort of their territorial behaviour, and they're very aloof in their social habits, and that's why I say social circle, because they do socialise, they enjoy being in one another's company, and yet they don't. Yes, all the elephants are now crossing the road. Let's try and give you a view of the elephants now that giraffes have disappeared into Torchwood. Torchwood, the big dark hole where all the animals disappear. Yeah, the whole herd is here. They're all going to cross over into Torchwood. Oof! That wasn't pleasant, Beaky. Why are you all crossing into Torchwood? Please tell me why. What is there, elephants? So yes, just going back to the giraffes, because it's been so long since we've actually seen giraffes. We're not seeing them as often. So I say social circle because they're very gregarious. They enjoy spending time around other giraffes. They're not aggressive to one another. Males can be, absolutely, but generally they enjoy spending time with each other of the same species. They're not territorial. They form loose, open herds, so there's no real structure. Nothing like an elephant herd where there is structure. And I find giraffes to be quite physically aloof, but they're also very socially aloof. And they don't really form any lasting bonds with one another, apart from, of course, mothers and their offspring. The bonds are very casual, and they don't tend to last long. And similar to elephants in the regard that the lone males will actually go from groups of giraffes to groups of giraffes looking for a female that's, well, receptive to mating, checking her reproductive status, and he tests her urine. So it's very, very similar to elephants in that regards. Oh, you see this youngster. And of course, once the bull does locate a female that's in estrus, he will attempt to maintain what we call a tending bond. And this is a temporary bond where he will tend to her every need during the period of mating that she's in estrus. He will guard her and keep all the rivals away. So he'll follow her really closely, and he actually licks her tail a lot. It's very bizarre to see. I saw it in the Masai Mara. And sometimes he actually takes the tail between his lips and sort of curls it around his lip, if you like, until she urinates. Yes, sounds very bizarre. But it's not a permanent bond. So we call this a tending bond, especially when referring to giraffes. Whew. just want a good look at this youngster. Ravi and I were actually talking about this yesterday. It's amazing how the heat can drain you. Now, I'm obviously talking about it from a human perspective, but the heat of today has absolutely drained all of us. I feel physically exhausted, and I haven't really done much physical exertion. You can only imagine how they... Mama? Your youngster is very cute. These elephants are not crossing into Torchwood. That's not the place to be. I hate saying that sentence, crossed over into Torchwood. Evil sentence. So I'm going to have to do yet another U-turn. Get ready, BK. And as I probably throw BK around in the back here, we're going to send you back across to David on Bushwalk.
And David and I, David Squared, are stuck here in a very soft tree. We're just enjoying the shade. This beautiful tree is also a very useful tree. This tree, can anyone guess what it's for? I'll describe it to you. Very soft, which is its main characteristic. No thorns. It's called a weeping wattle, which doesn't give any clues as to its use. Peltiforum africanum, I believe. Can anyone guess what this might be used for? I'll give you a clue. It is a toiletry, as are many trees out here. And indeed, mobile laptop, that quick response is correct. It is the toilet paper tree, sometimes referred to as the Bushman's toilet paper. Now, oftentimes when we talk about trees and their medicinal uses or other uses, we just kind of talk, especially as guides, from what the book says, what you've read. But in this case, I can definitely talk from experience and say that this is very useful as toilet paper. Having grown up out here, spending endless days playing out in the bush, I can honestly say that I've sampled most trees out here in the use of finding the absolute two-ply, but this one definitely wins. Nice and soft, no thorns, doesn't have a particular smell, but does do the trick. Although just a word of warning that when using it, you definitely want to do at least 6-ply and above. Anything less than that and you run the risk of a finger breaking through, which no one likes. Well, we heard some elephants again just behind us. They still are with us in this drainage line, so we are still moving quietly and cautiously. We continue walking slowly, see what else we can find. There's just so much out here that you can talk about. From the spiders, to the trees, to the grasses, and of course, the massive elephants. Clown Sharon, you've asked, which is the tree that we can use as a toothbrush? Now that is called the magic guarri tree, also one of our very important toiletries. And what is the chances? What a coincidence. We found one just as you asked about it. Up here on the right. Magic Guari. Guari divinorum. I've got something biting me. Now, to use it as a toothbrush, what one does is you get a little bit of a stick here at the end. You peel off the outer bark. Oh, those elephants are still right there. I don't know if you heard that on the mic, but they are still screaming with glee. So what you do is you peel off the outer bark. It doesn't help too much. And it's quite a fibrous tree. So what I'm going to do for the next few minutes is just be chewing on this, creating a bit of a brush. So after that, after it's kind of become kind of like a paintbrush consistency, then you can clean your teeth with it. What I've also tried before is taking the ash from a fire, specifically a leadwood fire, and that ash also being nice and abrasive, some fluoride content perhaps, that helps your teeth. If you dip that in a bit of water, mix it, and use that in conjunction with this. So much to use out here. One really is able to make use of a lot of trees and plants out here. We found what to use for a toothache, we found what to use for toilet paper, we found what to use for a toothbrush. Perhaps you're hungry, here's a tree you can eat, a buffalo thorn. One of the most important trees out here. We were talking earlier about how the most nutritious trees often have thorns. And very spiky thorns indeed. This one's got a spike and a hook. These trees, kind of their defining factor. But the leaves are extremely nutritious, very high in vitamin C. And quite tasty. Trick is to get a nice green one.
Yum, yum.
We skipped lunch. I've eaten a lot of these leaves over the years. I reckon they could keep you going for a good while. I don't particularly taste like much. They are actually quite palatable. They don't have a very strong taste. Whereas other trees that might not be as nutritious would have a lot of tannin in them. Well, I'm going to continue on, see what else we can find.
We are now finally on our way back west. If Shadulu is there or anybody else is there, we're going to find them. I didn't even make it to Bushcraft Dam. Or Gowrie Dam, actually. Chitwa ended up being the gift that kept on giving. But westwards we go. I'm going to try and get off this horrible boundary line very soon. I had earlier were for male leopard on Mendoza Road, a road that I really don't travel. Even BK said, I don't like this road. Neither do I. I don't know why. We can't figure out why we don't like it, but we don't. Now, they were not so fresh, but I think it's worth just scratching around again for Shadulu and the possibility of the hook. The hook will come back and forth continuously. I would love to monitor. I would love to have him tracked, which of course I know is a topic of mass debate really, but I would love to have him tracked and see where exactly he goes and how long it takes him to do his territorial patrol. His territory is much bigger than Tingana's, and how long does it take him to complete it and then come back into Djuma? Does he do it routinely? Does he do it regularly? Does he come into Djuma on a sort of fortnightly basis? I really don't know. Excuse me, Impala. Sorry to startle you. I would really love to know more about the hook's route. Of course, because everybody knows Hukumuri is actually a very famous leopard, his location is regularly posted on social media, so you can keep track of it. But I would love to go into much greater depth and find out really where he moves. With Tingana, I think we have a better idea. Tingana's territory is smaller. It's a lot smaller than it used to be, and it's definitely smaller than the Hooks. But Hukumuri, how often does he really come into Djuma? That's what I want to know. There's a lot of information that I want to know. Still no news on Kuchava. And I believe one Nkuhuma is meeting with one Avoca. I didn't establish who on Arathusa. And the rest of the Nkuhumas are on the Londolozi border. Still no sign of them coming into Djuma. BK asked earlier, where's the Nkuhumas? And sadly, I have had to tell him they haven't been around in so long. It is concerning me why they haven't been to Djuma in so long. I'm not sure if Louise is actually able to tell me the last time we saw them. It was with Davi and I, and it was the entire pride, plus all the cubs and the Avocas, the 2 Avocas. Oh, this is the road that I want to take. Sorry, everyone, I wasn't paying attention. It was on a sunset safari. Last minute sighting of all the Nkuhumas, and that's the last time they were on Djuma, but I can't remember the date. Louise is checking for me and she'll get back to me. Hello. I've got a security guard here. Guard in the road. What password? She's waiting for a password. Tlalamba. Yes, I think that's the password. We may proceed. 9th of January, Louise is telling me. 9th of January was the last time. I think that was Davi and I's sighting. I'm almost sure of it. Wow. Hello. That's a long time ago. 3 weeks? Just a little over 3 weeks? That's quite a long time for the Nkuhumas to not be on Djuma. It is their territory. They will have to come back, and even although these sort of items of prey that they are looking for may not be available, they need to come back to Djuma. And what I'm worried about essentially is if they're shifting their territory. They've gone down south in search of food, and I'm worried that they've possibly found a vacant space, almost like a... Can you hear the monotonous lark again? I wonder if it's the same one. We're at the same place we saw it last. It's very possible the same one. Oh, Louise is saying you can hear it on Bushwalk as well. And yes, I'm worried, just like what happened with the Birmingham boys. They were the territorial dominant coalition. They moved down south. They obviously thought the grass was greener on the other side, and then eventually the grass obviously was greener on the other side, and they never came back. They left a vacuum that the Avoca males filled. And what worries me is if the Nkuhumas, with the Avocas, have sort of moved down south after food, and maybe they've found a vacant area. Maybe they've actually found a space that they can fill, a niche that they can occupy, and they may essentially shift their territory. And that's what's worrying me. They do have a large territory, and even larger home range, but it's a very long time to be off Djuma for the Nkuhumas. And especially since you've got the Talamatis just above that cut line in Buffels Hook. Lisa, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's been such a long time. Imagine the size of the little ones. Imagine the size of Ridgenor's 2 boys. I'm sure they're going to be so big. And I do miss them. When we don't see the animals for a while, we miss them. And that's what's worrying me. I want the Nkuhumas to come back. They don't have to stay for long, but I want them to come back. We, of course, had who we believe was Darkmane the other night calling on quarantine, so we went out to see him. But other than that, no lions. Maybe BK is going to bring the lion action back. Is that right, Beaks? Okay. Bring the Nkuhumas back to us, please. Now, the Talamatis did cross that northern border. They came south across our northern border, if that makes any sense. And they did pop into Djuma, which is very rare for the Talamatis. So I am wondering if that might become more of a common occurrence for them. And I would love to spend time with the Talamatis and get to know them. I don't know much about them. I've never seen them. I've seen the Styx Pride, the Nkuhuma Pride, and the Torchwood Pride. Okay, send all your leopard vibes my way. I want to find either Miss Shadulu or Mr. Hukamuri. And while I search, we are going to send you back across to the Bushwalk team on quarantine.
Well, I really do hope that Shadulu makes an appearance again. I was so lucky to spend the morning with her. What a beautiful sight. As the sun slowly sets to that iconic African tree, the marula tree. What a shot. We've come back out into the open area now, out of the drainage line, so moving a little bit quicker, seeing what we can pick up. Quite a variety of tree species out here in this open area. Bruce Lee, you've asked, what would we do if we ran into a predator like a lion or a leopard on foot? And if we should be so lucky, because that doesn't happen very often, first of all, we'd smile and be very excited. And secondly, we would just kind of assess the situation and see what that animal's doing. If you're lucky enough that the animal doesn't actually know you're there, then you're going to pretty much stay put and just enjoy it. Very difficult to sneak around on foot around a predator. 9 out of 10 times they're going to hear you or smell you. Leopard generally give you one quick look and they disappear into the bush. Lion might hang around a bit longer. But yeah, every situation is different. I said earlier, when asked about my favorite tree, we'd find you a leadwood. We found a little leadwood here, but it's a very bad example because this leadwood is a very sad leadwood. It's been broken by elephants that we have been spending time with all afternoon. Still a leadwood though. And I would like to give it a hug to make it feel better, but it would stab me because leadwoods have spikes. If I take this broken branch and show you as a better idea, even with a small tree like this, you can still identify it by using characteristics that we know about leadwoods. And like I just said, leadwoods have spikes. Look at these spikes. And they are generally perpendicular to each other at 90 degrees. And those things really are strong. If you stand on that barefoot, you're going to have a very bad day. A lot worse than a lot of thorns. But luckily, in the distance, I do see a larger leadwood. So let's slowly walk over there and give you a better example of my favorite tree. Chat about what other trees we find on the way. This one here on the left is known as an apple leaf, a very good indicator of water. I'm not exactly sure why it's called an apple leaf. Someone once told me perhaps it's the sound it makes when you crush the leaf. Sounds like biting into a green apple. In South Africa we call them Granny Smith apples. I'll let you decide for yourself. I'm going to crush the leaf. Did that sound like biting into an apple, maybe? Let's move over to this large leadwood. Now this tree is a lot older than David and I even put together. They are very slow growing trees. And take a long time to get established. I've read that they grow 1 millimeter in diameter every year. Those are the growth rings. I suppose that would vary a lot depending on where they are. Some with a better water source might grow a bit faster. But nonetheless, this tree is very old. What would you guess? This is in diameter about 800 millimeters. Obviously, they would grow a little bit faster when they're younger. But I'd say this tree is at least 50, maybe 70 years old, maybe more. I wonder what stories it could tell. I wonder how many leopard have climbed it. Definitely my favorite tree out here. There's even a chance that our lovely Shidulu climbed it at some point in her life. And on that note, I'm going to send you back to Lauren as she continues her search.
I'm still searching. Shidulu, please, my girl. I hope you haven't crossed out yet, although it's highly likely you have. Imagine if trees really could share their secrets. Imagine. They would say, oh, we see this blonde girl driving round and round looking for leopards, and the leopards in the completely opposite direction. They would probably all have a good chuckle at me. Imagine the knowledge retained within trees. Cannot believe how tall the grass is here. BK, can you see this community nest here? I don't know if I've positioned properly for it. It's been a while since I've checked out a community nest. I might go a little bit closer. Can you believe I'm going to do this? Yes, everyone, I am. I'm going to get a little bit closer. I'm also going to show you how tall the grass is. On quarantine, it's relatively short. Wow. Here, I'm afraid, and I'm going to go around this nest, the thought of getting caught in that spider net sends heebie-jeebies down my spine. Okay, look at this piece of grass. Can you see how tall this piece of grass is? Okay. Now, not all community nests are active. Some of them remain there, but they're not actually active. Oh my goodness, this maybe wasn't a good idea. There's a chance I may fall, everyone. This may actually happen. This was not a wise idea, Lauren. Here we go. Oh, I think it might be active. Normally the spiders respond to vibrations and they all come clambering out. But there's actually, it looks like a complete mess, this nest. But there'll be lots of little chambers inside, and as I'm sure some of you know, the males will retreat into the little chambers to escape the females. Females are much bigger, and the females will eat the males. They use them, and then they eat them. So the males spend most of their time trying to retreat inside and actually hide from the females inside this nest. So it looks very messy in the way that it's been designed. It's normally got lots of vegetation sticking to it. And I don't know if you can see from here, BK, but there's lots of insects in this web. Termites, stink bugs. Stink bugs get everywhere. All sorts of exoskeletons of insects attached to this web, but I can't actually see any spiders. Maybe it's actually inactive after all. So when the female is hungry, she will eat one of the males. BK's filming me closely because he wants to catch the moment that I fall on my face. Don't you, BK? Oh, I made it, everyone. I made it safely. You didn't get your moment. It's just been a while since I've actually looked at a community nest. And sometimes if you walk close and you blow or you make vibrations, all the spiders will come out. And they're very small, very, very small little arachnids. They're not big and scary. Still slightly scary, but not big. And there's hundreds of little spiders in there living in the nest. Ah, that was fun. Sebwig, yes. Sorry, I forgot to update you. I got very engrossed and captivated by chitwa. I popped my nose in. So there's a road that you go down, I'm sure you've seen us go down many times, just off Spaghetti Junction, not too far away from it. And Beaky and I had a look, and I just feel the Mulawati's not quite ready. I'm actually going to talk to Rex, all of you know Rexon, and see what he thinks. And then once I get the go-ahead from Rex, we'll go in. How does that sound? Because we all want to see Sebwig, myself included. So I'll talk to Rexon tonight, and I'll be on drive tomorrow and see if I can pop in and see Sebbers. And if we get stuck, then we get stuck. Joy. I promise you all I will talk to Rex tonight, because I also want to go into the Mulawati. I want to see what it looks like, what life is there, what insect life is there, especially butterflies, and of course, Sebwig and co. We did pop our nose in, but I don't know. On one of the days of heavy rain, it was actually Seb's birthday? Yes, it was Seb's birthday. Tristan and I took him into the flowing Mulawati and splashed around for a little pool party with you all live, and we got very badly stuck. We did. Tristan managed to get us out, but it did quite a lot of damage, so it's not worth doing that again. But I promise tonight I will check with Rex. Okay, as I hopefully find some life for you, I've not been so lucky since coming back into Djuma. We're going to send you back across to Bushwalk and see what they're up to.
Well, nothing large out here at the moment in this open area. Just enjoying the smaller things, in particular these little flowers. Different names for them. Some people call them a string of stars. Some a lamb's tail. I like lamb's tail. Although string of stars is also pretty cool. If you look at it, all these little white flowers in a line really are gorgeous. We have many, many cool flowers out here in the bush. Some of them only coming out for a very short period of time after the rains. Some of them stay a bit longer. Do see a lot of these flowers, especially in disturbed areas. They're a bit of a pioneer species by the looks of it. You often find them in areas that have been disturbed. Pioneer species meaning a hardier species that's happy to grow and live in soil types that are not necessarily ideal. I have seen elephants eating them a lot, so I suppose that helps with their dispersal. Tita, you asked, do we get any ironwood trees here? Not on this property, in this region, have I ever seen ironwood trees. Perhaps further north, towards the Libombos, but not down here. I've never seen. Maybe years gone by. I know there are a tree that has been exploited in the past. Here's a grass that was growing like a weed among the flowers. It's called a carrot seed grass. Not our favorite grass. My shoes are absolutely full of them. They got a really rough and abrasive little seed that falls in your shoes and is most uncomfortable. Someone told me that the inventor of Velcro actually took the idea from carrot seed grass. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure, but it does kind of make sense because it does resemble Velcro. Little hairs, little hooks on the grass seed itself do slightly resemble Velcro, and they definitely stick to you. Stick to your clothes, stick to the hair on your legs, which in my case is no shortage of. All sorts of things growing out here. One can spend hours investigating, learning. You come out here with a book, you can learn so much. I suppose moving through these areas, one never quite knows what they're going to find. Interesting question, do I spend more time picking out grass seeds or ticks? Today it'll definitely be grass seeds. We've been lucky. I haven't seen any ticks on me, but luckily nothing yet. But let's see, as the days progress, we may very well find ourselves among the ticks. Good trick for that though is paraffin, believe it or not. Rubbing one's legs in paraffin or a similar chemical actually dissuades the ticks, although I don't think it's very good for your skin, so not recommended to try that at home, but in a dire situation, it can work. Isms, you've asked, do we drive to a spot and then walk? Today we've walked straight from camp, as we generally do. There's so much to see out here that you don't really have to drive to a specific area. We could definitely drive to an area and walk, perhaps if we're following up on a specific animal's tracks, just to save a bit of time to drive out there and then start tracking. So different days, we do different things, but today, as with most days, we walk straight from base camp. But as soon as you come out the gate, you start looking and imagining and seeing, and often getting surprised by something you never expected. Like today, I had no plan or idea that we'd spend the majority of the afternoon surrounded by elephants. The majority of that walk was literally surrounded by elephants. We just kept bumping into group after group, young bulls, mothers with youngsters. Very, very special walk indeed. We're not too far from our camp. The sun is slowly starting to go down, so we're starting to make our way in that direction. But while we continue on, perhaps find something on the way there, I'm going to send you back to Lauren.
I hope you do find one last thing, David. There's so much on quarantine right now. And I hope I find one last thing too. With spots. I checked the area that Shadulu would generally move in. I've done a complete loop and no luck. What would be lovely if she turned back on herself and stayed in Djuma. It was actually quite recently, over the Christmas festive period, that Davy and I watched her, make a kill live. So what we really need is for Shadulu to have a kill, spend some time here, and then of course bring Kara. I want to meet Kara. Kara's obviously over a year now, which is why she's been named, and she's probably got about 6 months-ish, give or take, left with her mother before Shadulu will start pushing her to independence. Hyena, hyena, hyena. One last loop, okay. Before I forget, I almost forgot. My brain is not working very well today. I'm sure you've all realized that already for some reason. Heat stroke. I had an insect on bushwalk this morning. I've never seen it before. There's no point in me pretending that I know what it is or what it was, because I didn't. It was very bizarre. It looked like a hermit crab. Now, it can't be a hermit crab, but just the way it was moving, the legs, and it had sand and debris all piled on top of it. Bizarre. And apparently, thanks to Picky, it's a moldy beetle. Fascinating. I might actually try and bring it up on my book and give you a view. But a moldy beetle is what we had on bushwalk this morning. It wasn't the best views because I didn't want to touch it. I didn't know what it was. And it was obviously moving fast. But I think you all got to see it, and that's what it was. How fascinating. And not the most pleasant of names. A moldy beetle. If I was that beetle, I think I would want my name changed immediately. Hermit crab beetle. That would work for me. I'm not sure I can look at my encyclopedia and drive at the same time. I probably will end up throwing BK off if I do that. Tank, you're asking, will another leopard... Oh, you might need to repeat that, Louise. It's a complicated question, Tank. I'll get there. Brain not functioning. Okay, will the mother fight the daughter if she does not move out of the territory? Okay, I simplified it a little bit. The mother essentially, so let's go with Tandy and Tlalamba, because that was sort of what I witnessed when I first came here. When I arrived to Djuma, Tlalamba was, I think, at that age, 18 months, or the 18-month mark, where she was still seen with Tandy, but the frequency was less and less. You were starting to see them more on their own than you would together. And those interactions you did see together, Tandy is generally quite a snarly cat, but she was very snarly towards Tlalamba. There was no more tender interactions. It was snarly. I wouldn't use the word aggressive, but there was lots of salivating, snarls, growls, just overall signs to say to Tlalamba, it's time to be on your own now. Get away from me, it's time to go on your own. And then there's a natural shift in territories. And what you find is Tandy shifted down south. So she molded her territory a little bit down south in order to give Tlalamba the northern part. And that's normal. Female leopards shift their territories in order to give their offspring, female offspring, of course. Males are completely different. But Tandy does snarl and definitely showed the signs that Tlalamba wasn't welcome anymore. And of course, slowly but surely, Tlalamba set off on her own. Now, related females, when it comes to leopards, will not really interact. You will not see Tandy and Tlalamba interact in the way you see Tlalamba and Tingana interacting. They may tolerate one another. I really don't think related individuals, especially mother and offspring, would battle, but there would be a lot of snarling, growling, just general get away from me behavior. So you will not see Tandy and Tlalamba interacting anymore, I'm afraid. So yes, there wouldn't be fighting, but absolutely the mother shows signs it's time to go on your own. So I'm going to check one more road in hope of finding an animal for you all. And let's go back across to Bushwalk for one last time before the sun goes down.
And what have we found here? Elegant grasshopper. Might not be there for very long, but let's enjoy it while it feels comfortable on my hand. We started the walk with an elegant, oh there it goes, elegant grasshopper, and we've ended with it. What a spectacular walk it has been. Out here in this open area, under these large marulas. Actually feeling like a marula. David, can you see any ripe marulas anywhere? Any green ones? Oh. That's a pretty good one. Some marulas are one of my favorite fruits out here. famous for the amarula liqueur drink that we get in Africa. Also very nutritious, high in vitamin C. The trick is to find a yellow one like this that's got a bit of squish to it. The green ones are a bit sour. If you don't mind, I haven't had a marula in a while, so I'm going to enjoy this one. The pip's quite big, so you don't get too much, but you've got to kind of try and get all the juice that you can. You peel off the outer layer. Try and get as much of the juice as possible. And it is very tasty. Bill, you've asked, do I have any comments or thoughts on the locust invasion in Kenya? Now, I don't know too much about it, but if I could comment, the bush seems to go in cycles. Excuse me while I talk with a mouthful of marula. It's just too good to spit out. Some seasons, specific bugs just seem to be in far greater volumes than they are the previous year. I guess it's nature's way of perhaps regulating things that we don't quite understand. This area specifically this year, we've had a lot of stink bugs. Little black bugs that give off such a horrible smell. And if you are so unfortunate as to have one land in your food at night while you're eating, also a really bad taste. It happened to me a couple nights ago. It landed up in my potato salad, and I wasn't looking, and all of a sudden the potato salad tasted terrible. But what can you do? It's extra protein. This marula is tasty. You can understand why elephants just spend hours in the marula season under these trees. It's so amazing watching them eat these marulas because, I mean, this is a small little marula, and their trunks are so versatile and so finely muscled that they can actually pick up these marulas that are smaller than golf balls with the tip of their trunk and just keep popping them into their mouths. And of course, not only elephants, lots of animals will feed on these marulas. Baboons and monkeys up there, shaking the branches, dropping the ripe ones down for maybe a nyala or bushbuck. A very important tree, and a delicious one to end our bushwalk on. It has been a fantastic afternoon. It's been lovely. I've thoroughly enjoyed this bushwalk. Lovely elephant sightings. Lovely insects, trees. It's really been a special afternoon. I'm going to slowly start making my way back to camp as the sun drops all the lower for an exciting evening in the bush. And while I do that, I'm going to send you back to Lauren. Till tomorrow. Cheers.
I have the beetle to show you, and I want to show it to you, the moldy beetle. It's apparently a type of darkling beetle. The moldy beetle is actually just a nickname, and this is what it looks like, obviously, on someone's fingers. It's very, very small, and the moldy beetle is not the official name. So what's happened is it's actually covered in very waxy hairs. I'm just going to scroll, BK. This is another view of it. And the waxy hairs end up sort of attracting all mud, dirt, sediment here. I think it's got some web on it. It's got sand on it. A wing. I think that's a wing of an alley, maybe. And it's not intentional. These items just stick to the waxy hairs covering the body. I'm going to scroll one more time, BK. Oh, that's not such a nice view. But you can see why it was utterly bizarre for us to understand what we were seeing this morning. But thanks to Picky, that's exactly what we were seeing. So it's obviously a form of camouflage when the waxy hairs attract everything that sticks to the beetles. So they're very, very small beetles, and they belong to the darkling grouping. And this one is known as the moldy beetle. I'm sure that name mustn't do much for that beetle's self-esteem. Poor beetle. It must be feeling terrible about itself with a nickname like that. Covered in dirt, covered in sand, and someone called you the moldy beetle. But there you go. That's what we had this morning, and thank you for your IDs. I don't think I'll ever forget the moldy beetle in a hurry. Okay, we're going to go down one of my favourite roads in hope that... Oh, hello. Where did you come from? Is it okay here, BK? Looks like we have an elephant. My road did deliver, after all. Are you alone? I don't think so. You look too young to be alone. Marge, you're asking about milk tusks. I have never found any milk tusks. I'm not entirely sure what happens to them, but I have definitely never found any milk tusks when I am out and about on drive. That would probably be a huge issue also, but I've definitely never came across them, so I'm not entirely sure where they go or what happens to them, Marge. Even if we did come across, if two males were fighting, for example, and one tusk broke off and was lying on the ground and the two males left, we still would not be able to collect that tusk. It would be highly illegal. We would just have to leave it on the ground. If anyone picked it up, it would be a really huge issue out here. And that is, of course, for the ivory trade. They were experimenting for a while by giving elephants a substance. I wish I could remember what the substance was. I'm really sorry, I can't remember. I'll find out for you. That the elephants ingested, and it ended up causing the tusks to dye bright pink. So it didn't harm the elephant in any way, and they ended up walking around with, well, bright pink tusks. Looked utterly bizarre, but the intention behind that sort of project was in fact to deter poachers. By having bright pink stained ivory, the poachers are not going to want that, and therefore the theory behind it was to deter them. So I'm not sure if the project was feasible or not, but there definitely are some pink tusked elephants roaming around. We can still see it. I'm gonna pop right out in front of the car. You can see this individual's left tusk is actually slightly broken. It's much shorter than the right one. You see that? Hello. Are you going to come in and check us out? Kruger, you've just covered me in sand. Thank you, Ellie. We see you. I see more of you coming. I'm going to have to move. Kruger, I was just saying, Kruger, sorry. You were saying this Ellie's been such a gentleman. And just as I started to say that, we got a head shake and I've got sand in my eyes. There's more coming. We may have to reverse in just a second. I feel he's too close for me to turn on my engine. But I will move. I can't block their path. That head shake was just a bit of nonsense. There was nothing aggressive behind that. Just a bit of nonsense so I can see how big and handsome you are. I had to clean the car the other day. We clean the cars regularly. And I literally had to scrape off the mud that had been sprayed all over poor Jigga by the elephants. I love finishing the drive just as the sun's going down and it's starting to go pink with elephants. I love it. That was a marula fruit that just dropped almost on your head. And now you're looking for it. Ah, you found it. I don't know if you saw the marula fruit or heard it fall. But this boy hoovered it up almost immediately. Sparky, you are a new viewer on the Twitch platform. It's really lovely to have you here with us. I'm actually going to turn the other way so that I'm just facing the elephant so I can see it in case it decides to do anything naughty. So thank you for jumping on board with us. We do hope you join us again and you stay with us. You're asking, is it dangerous to be this close to an elephant? Luckily, we can read the situations. We're trained for these kind of situations. So I rounded the corner here and the elephant was further there feeding. So we stopped the car. I'm speaking in a very neutral, calm tone. My voice hasn't gone up and down. He knows we're here. He gave us a little head shake, which is very common of naughty young bulls. He's a youngster. And yes, you have to read the situation. So we had elephants earlier at Chitwa and they were moving along the dam wall and I knew that I could not position myself on the dam wall. I would have been in a lot of trouble if I'd done that. So you have to sort of predict their movements and read the situations, read the body language and just give the animal space. If I turn on the engine right now, he's going to get a fright. So I'm just waiting for him to move off just another meter or two and then I will turn on the engine, reverse and leave these boys alone. He's very relaxed. He just gave us a wee head shake. The boys do that. But the other day I had a huge herd travelling in front of me and I parked very, very far away. They were going to cut across and we were going to watch them walk on by and they got a fright. They saw or heard or maybe even smelt another herd. So they quickly changed direction and immediately headed for my car. Now, in that moment, I have two choices. Turn on the engine and leave or stay still. Now, due to the nature of that situation, I stayed still and the elephants came very close, within 1 meter of the car, under 3 feet. They inspected us. They gave us a good sort of once over. But we were calm, we didn't startle them, we stayed still, we spoke calmly, and eventually they left. A big bull came in and also inspected us as well. But once he realised we were not a threat, he left. So now this elephant is behind the car, so I'm not going to turn on my engine just yet. He's moving off though. But yes, it can be dangerous to get too close to elephants, and the one thing to remember is the most unpredictable animal out here in the bush is elephants. Yes, you can pick up on body language. Yes, an elephant will signal to you when it's not happy. Normally you can pick up on the signals, but they're also very unpredictable and they can change at any moment. I think it's safe to reverse. The other one's gone this way, he's gone this way, he's far enough away, so I'm just going to turn around. Maybe we can get one last view before the end of drive. You have to be very hypersensitive out here. You have to always listen, always watch, always look everywhere, up, down, around, and use your sense of smell. You've got to be hypersensitive in this environment and pay attention to everything that's going on. One last view of this young boy before we do in fact head home for dinner. I am hungry, and it looks like this boy is also hungry. Kaylee, you're saying thank you for a refreshing drive today. You are welcome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was very hot, and it's nice to have BK back. We're very happy to have it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. Chitwa was incredible. Thank you everyone, as always, for jumping on board. It means the world to us. Of course, we will be out tomorrow and we hope to see you then. Good night for now.